hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And indeed it is Judd's Hockey Show, full-strength version, which means first line, Judd, AJ, and Jessi, as we always do, convening once a week to talk about your favorite team, a team that is still incredibly successful, that just split on a road trip. They go out to San Jose on Saturday, don't play a great game, but they win, and then come back on Sunday and look completely tuckered out. Obviously, a lot of key people still missing, and lose pretty decisively to a game in Vegas, in a game in which they actually held it pretty close for quite a while before it fell apart. I want to talk about expectations, and Jessi, I'll start with you on this. So I'm struggling here because I'm struggling with what our expectations should be. Like, we don't make a lot of excuses, but since Kirill Kaprizov, I believe he's now missed 9 games. Since he went out coming back from the break for Christmas, the Wild is 6-3. They now, for the last 3 games, have been without Faber and Brodin, which adds into Spurgeon, who got hurt at the end of the year, at the end of the year. So, like, when you see a game like last night, ordinarily you might be like, "Oh, come on, it's a back-to-back," but your team's at full strength. What's your thought on what this team is doing? Because I guess I give them some credit for not falling apart more. When you look at their current blue line status, I mean, there's something left there, but you're asking a lot of guys who ordinarily aren't asked to do a lot to carry a lot of the responsibility. What's your assessment there?
I mean, they've been doing well. I go back to that St. Louis game where it was very back and forth. One of the more entertaining games I've seen this year out of Minnesota Wild at home. But the way that they continue to show some resiliency, but also in playing their game. I think that St. Louis game was a prime example of that. And yes, you still had Faber for a little bit before he leaves, and Brodin finished and he ends up leaving, but you did that without your Kaprizov. You did that without Spurgeon. And I even asked Hines, going back to the Thursday's game where they fell to Colorado pretty handily. I asked Hines, I said, what is different though? Like, what is different about this segment of time without your superstars compared to last year? Because again, last year, this happened over and over again. We're looking at rinse and repeat at this point, losing your Kirills, your Spurgeons, your Broads, your Fabers, Middleton at one point, Gus at one point. I mean, this is a problem that is repeating itself from last year, but this year's team just feels built different. And John Hines pointed to the mental strength. He really focused on a lot stronger mental capacity, to that mental toughness that, he wouldn't outright say that they were lacking that last year, but I think that is a huge difference. I think the players have a little bit more confidence and belief in themselves, which is why they've been able to remain fairly stagnant. I do look at that Vegas game as it's the second half of a back-to-back and on the road. I mean, I wasn't expecting a lot. And as you mentioned, Judd, they kept it close until the end, and Vegas is Vegas. It's a very, very good hockey team, right? Mm-hmm. The blue line stinks without their guys, right? Like, for Blackfoot, there's no other word to say there. I'm sorry. I know some people like different adjectives. They're not up to par. Your Travis Dermott in there, John Merrill being a top 4 defenseman, Zach Bogosian being asked to be a top D-man. That's not what it's designed to do. It's not how it's designed. And again, lucky that Filip Gustavsson continues to be sound. Even Marc-Andre Fleury coming in when he's not. So you're going to be hampered. You're hurting. But I do believe that mental toughness that they've implored has really helped them see this through. It sounds like Kirill Kaprizov could be back Wednesday against the Edmonton Oilers. He continues skating. Brock Faber started skating. Brodin might be a little bit longer than we'd like to hear, and Spurgeon has started to move around a little bit and do some stuff there. So if you get Kaprizov back, things feel better, but you still need one of those blue line pieces, I think, to really feel good about this team as they continue to trudge forward a tough month or two here.
Mm-hmm. Last night, I thought, was a pretty good showing, and a bounce-back showing for Filip Gustavsson, who in his previous 2 outings had struggled pretty heavily. And I think he was by far, despite the final scoreline, probably the best player for the Wild last night on the ice against Vegas. Feel free to push back on this, but I felt like after the first 20, the effort level dropped for the Wild, especially in that third period. You get scored on in the first 4 minutes of the game, and then of the period, and you record, I think, 3 shots the entire third period. 4 shot attempts, I want to say, in total. that can't be right. But 3 on goal, that simply cannot happen. I feel like they just kind of said, all right, well, you know what? We're already missing a handful of guys. People don't expect us. Vegas, and the thing is, Vegas, it's not like they were fresh as daisies either. They had a second half of a back-to-back. Jack Eichel was a last-minute scratch. He wasn't in warm-ups and then didn't play in the game. It's not like they were 100% this like juggernaut of a team. That being said, they kind of looked like it for the final 40 minutes of last night's game. So I think you can use the injury excuse more than enough, but I don't think you can cover the effort at some points. And I feel like the second half of last night's game, it just kind of tapered off and they were very much looking to get out of the building.
But I look at it as to that effort level, right? Let's use John Merrill as an example, who, again, I think the beginning of the year was fine. He started to show his warts, as we know he tends to do.
Yep.
Prior to the Brock Faber-Brodian injury, John Merrill was playing 11 minutes. He had 11 total minutes of ice time. He had 21 minutes of ice time against the Vegas Golden Knights. He had 18 the night before, and then you go back to 19 against Colorado, again without Faber, Brodian, and Spurgeon. So I think it's players like that where they literally just don't have the capacity. I don't ever want to say that they're unconditioned to be that, but they're simply not used to that workload and that shift. And then you look at the fourth line, very similar, right? I mean, you're having these young guys who just aren't used to it, have to log these big, heavy minutes. And I think that's maybe a part of the reason where it reflects on, they look kind of dog tired. Or they look like there's a lack of pushback. There might be a little bit, certainly. Yeah. I think part of it is just like, let's just get out of here. Like, what are we doing? Blah, blah, blah. But I do think that's a huge part of it, as we mentioned, is just these guys that are having to step up. Can they really, truly, are they going to be able to do that with the ice time?
And this is where I struggle with this. And the reason I asked the question was exactly what both of you said. Like, that's where I'm straddling a line here. Because, it's like, okay, the Avs game, for instance, right? That game was a game where I will say the first line in that game I thought was putrid, and I don't know that that's an excuse. Like it's still Zuccarello, Boldy, and Rossi. That line should be good. But then, like Jessi says, the blue line, you're looking at all these guys maxing out minutes who have no business doing that. And it's like, you're missing 3 key guys, and just get one of them back, it helps a ton. Get 2 of them back, it's enormous. So this is where I'm actually struggling, because I don't want to give these guys a free pass. It's not like, they're hurt, that's fine. But I also don't think it's fair to say, to call a spade. Bogosian had a terrible game last night. Took some bad penalties. He had a terrible game. And a friend texted me, this loss is on him. And I said, you're probably right, but I can't pin a loss on that dude. So I'm really struggling here, because when Boldy in the first line plays bad against the Avs, I will say this: they need to be better. And against the Sharks, they were fantastic. But as a whole, it's like Gus last night. Age, I think you're 100% right. Gustavsson came back from back-to-back games in which he did not play well. The goals against don't look good, but I thought he played really well. So, until guys come back, this is what I think is the trying thing. How do you create an expectation, but it's an expectation with what they have right now, which is far less than the team that we saw get off to a great start. When you're talking about, Faber, Brodin, and Kaprizov. Like, Spurgeon's hurt a lot now. Lauko's a third or fourth line guy. And look, when Spurgeon's playing well, it's great. But my point is, you're without 3 guys that you're used to having all the time. So this is the line I'm straddling here, and I'm mentally trying to get to a point where I'm okay with some things without just basically saying, oh, who cares? Too many guys are out for this team to win right now.
I mean, 6-3 without 97 is not. It's not something I'm disappointed in. I agree, though, that San Jose is exactly what I need to see from Boldy, Zuccarello, and Rossi every single game. Even when Kaprizov comes back into the lineup, there's no reason. You were hoping that would kind of give them that confidence. And Rossi, for all intents and purposes, has played really well, even without Kaprizov. So a credit to him. But yeah, 6-3. It's got
know.
that different vibe. It's just that
I
different.
agree.
Sometimes the vibes are just good, Judd. Sometimes
No, I'm with
the
you on
vibes-
this. And John Hines,
vibes
look,
are good.
I agreed with Hines after the Avs game where they sort of got their ass kicked. And he's like, yeah, we lost, but if you look at like, it's not like the Avs dominated play, right? And I thought Hines brought up a lot of relevant points, which basically didn't say, but he probably could have said, which is our goaltending was not good. Like he could have said that, and it's going to happen.
And
But
you
I'm
had
with
to, you had no backup goalie technically because Fleury
Exactly.
wasn't feeling great, so you had to let Gus swallow that one.
No, the Flower had the runs; he couldn't play. But
Poor guy.
oh god, just terrible. And in goalie freezers and stuff. Oh boy. But anyway, I agreed with him there. It does feel like, and this is where I give Hines age a ton of credit. It does feel like this team has far more of a compass to it. Like it has far more of a centered feeling than previous teams. Feels like this could have started a previous stretch of, oh boy, here we go. John Hines seems to bring it back really quickly. I don't know that all previous Wild coaches of recent vintage had that same knack.
Yeah, he's done a very good job of instilling whatever sort of mindset or like persistent nature that we just frankly didn't see last year at times. And that goes to, I want to say it was Ryan Hartman in his like end of season farewell tour of, all right, people wanted to come into our building and just push us around. I feel like that's not the case this year. The Wild, despite maybe the bad home record, they have a certain attitude and a swagger about them that they're not going to get pushed around. If they get pushed, they're going to push right on back. My maybe only question would be for John Hines is with these guys, especially your top three defensemen out, it's hard to maybe say, okay, we just have to keep sticking to that mindset. Like we similar to how everybody here has probably worked in a job before where like, people get sick and they're like, hey, you got to cover for Jeremy. Jeremy's got the runs. He's at home.
Jeremy.
I hate Jeremy too. He's the
Always
worst,
calling
but
in sick.
He's
Mental
buddy, lay
health
off the
days,
egg salad.
please.
Yeah. But even though like the order of operations is probably not as fluid when Jeremy is home, people are gonna adapt. And just because somebody doesn't know how to like run a till or whatever, you're gonna have them behind the cash register learning and adjusting. You're kind of having to do that with this kind of makeshift ragtag defensive core. Zach Bogosian's not a top pairing defenseman anymore. He's just simply not. But you have to sort of adjust the game because I think against the Sharks were getting to the front of the net fairly easy. And you saw that late in the game last night where it took some bad penalties for sure. But Vegas was just willingly getting to the front. They had 17 shots alone in the second period. That's
you're right.
The open door, get to the front, high danger chances. Why not? I want to know how he plans if people continue to stay out extended time, because it sounds like from what I've heard, Brodin maybe isn't right around the corner. That could be a little bit of time here. What's the plan to adjust while Jeremy is home, not at work?
Jimmy, we call him.
Yeah.
Jimmy Brodin.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy. Classic.
I think the thing here is, one, 4 nations for Brodin out. You're not going. You're staying home. You're going to get that foot right. I fear he broke his foot. That's just my own. I mean, that was a slap shot to the boot. It was a hell of a block, but that concerns me.
You called that out right away. I was there. I was like, nah, he's finishing. Now look at him go. Look at him.
He was
just
limping
stay
around
there.
the
He
locker
finished.
room too. He's like, I'm fine. It's like, no, you're not, dude.
He was
Just
going to
say
order
it.
pizza. He was just fine.
Yeah, well, he probably did. And he was walking to the door to get the pizza from the pizza man, and his foot broke. It went, and that was that.
Oh no, that was just the cheesy crust. Don't like that. It was just a bite down. Yeah.
So, Jess, what's your opinion here on Kaprizov too? Is this mostly cautionary, and what should our faith be that if he does what I think he's out 9 games right now, if he sits out 9 or 10 games, because I would guess that the cautionary thing is you're very concerned about him coming back too soon from what looks to be a groin, and because short term they have proven that they can absorb his absence. Long term, I think it's game, set, match if he's out for a very extended period of time.
Well, and Kaprizov doesn't want to be out, right? I mean, that's
Right.
not his build. That's not his DNA. I almost looked at it as a good thing that he didn't make this road trip, because John Hines had told us if he doesn't go on the road, it's because we don't think he's quite game ready, but he can stay in St. Paul and skate and really get to it. I mean, a lot of it is precautionary. It's not that Kirill's just sitting idle. Like I said, I was more concerned when he wasn't skating, when he wasn't doing stuff. He's been on the ice almost every single day, I think, that he could be doing his thing. And as I mentioned, I don't think it takes more than one practice for him. Hopefully that comes tomorrow. It's a day off today. He practices tomorrow, takes morning skate Wednesday. It's all feasible. But I think there has to be that caution, because from what I'm hearing is it's exactly what Jakub Lauko is dealing with. And there was that setback for Lauko in his first game. He came back, and I don't think they've ever necessarily said it was, like they rushed him back, but it was a re-aggravated injury from that groin injury he had suffered that made him miss time. And you look at it now, he still continues to be out. He hasn't had a setback, but they're still not ready to get him back in. And It's been over a month now. So you can't let that happen to Kirill, especially at this juncture of the season, right? So I think if he's not ready to go Wednesday, fine. Maybe he makes a trip to Nashville this weekend and is ready to go. But if it means missing another 1 or 2 games in order to prevent him from missing the rest of the season, you're going to have to swallow that and be okay with it. But I do feel he's getting closer. Like I said, I love that he's skating. It's just a matter of when is he going to be necessarily game ready, which could be Wednesday, but I'm okay with him taking some caution if they need to.
And he's not going to slow down too. Like that.
Right.
That's the thing, is you've got to keep him out for his own good, because once that dude plays, he's going to play hard. Mm-hmm. The other thing too is, I think right now what we're seeing, and this might sound weird, but it's backed up by, they're 6-3 without him. Small sample size. They are 1-2 with Brodin and Fabes out. So like right now, it's really the blue line. Mm-hmm. Like I'm more comfortable. Way more comfortable with Kaprizov being out for as long as necessary, if that's, 10 or 12 games. But like if you were just to put Faber back in, I actually thought Saturday's game was fun to watch. I actually thought for the entire game, they played worse on Saturday against the Sharks than they did at the outset of the game on Sunday. Now, Age is right. The last 2 periods, I thought that they got tired. But, there were some real shortcomings, because in their own zone, I thought that they struggled. Like the Sharks are a fun offensive team. I think defensively as well, they have no clue. But, that was a game where you're watching that game and you're like, if they're playing a good team, they're sunk. And again, it's, partially because John Merrill is playing a ton, and John Merrill can't play a ton. The incredible thing, you guys, though, is this team, after the loss last night, they are still 16-4-3 on the road.
Yeah.
That is now that speaks to the problems that we've discussed at the X, but 16-4-3 on the road. That is absolutely astounding, I think, Jessi.
I love it. Again, given gun to head in a regular season, I'd be like, yes, this is what I would prefer versus home team. They need to get things right at home, but it says a lot about the way that they arise, because some of their away games have arguably been against tougher teams too, right? I don't think we've seen as many tough opponents come into St. Paul just yet. So, I mean, to go out there and again, to win against your San Jose's, you need to pick up those points. You need to take those wins. You can take your lumps against Vegas then a little bit easier. But yeah, it's remarkable. Good road team, especially if you're not going to get home ice in the playoffs, is going to bode very well in the long run here. Just saying, guys.
You're just throwing that out there.
Playoffs.
So you're thinking that the Stars pass them up?
Yeah.
Wow, it's very negative right now.
That's not negative. That's just I'm just a realist. I also don't think the Vikings are going to win tonight. I'm sorry.
We know going back to last year how big of a Stars fan Jessi is.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. We found out that she's a huge Stars fan.
They're so good. I also was
left
a Rangers fan before coming into the season too.
Clearly,
though, so.
yeah. And now they're not good.
Not good.
But I just think that the fact that you've gone on the road and won 16 games at this point in time, without guys, with guys, I don't care, Age. That to me is an incredible statement. Now, I would like to see the wins at the X increase, no question about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if there's something that John Hines could hang his hat on, 16 road wins into January is a damn impressive thing.
And when you look at some of the wins too that have come on the road, like you could argue it's luck. You could argue I'll probably say it's the persistent mindset that we've been talking about. But was it a couple weeks ago down in Dallas? They looked like they were really just not in the game at all, kind of getting worked around. And all of a sudden, third period, Brock Faber, a couple other guys, bing, bang, boom. We go to overtime, wrap around, head out with 2 points. I mean, some of the wins that have come on the road have been, I'm not going to say like miraculous, but have been awfully impressive where they've kind of just willed points out of nowhere. Obviously, I think we all would agree more points at home should be coming here sooner or later. But for the meantime, they're in a position where they are right now. They started with that super long road stretch at the beginning of the season. That success has really set them up for where they are now. And even though Jessi thinks that they're going to fall out of that home playoff positioning.
Whoa.
Well, you just said that. You actually did
I mean,
say that.
I
said, do you think...
inconspicuously said if you're going to start on the road in the playoffs,
and I said, do you think
that
they're going to be passed by Dallas? And you said yes.
I said probably, maybe. How long
Probably
is Brody
maybe.
out?
That's
Well, you ain't going to that damn that tournament. Four Nations is out now, you guys.
Yeah.
How many games do they have here before the Four Nations? Because frankly,
there's a lot more than I thought because I counted up. I was doing my Ovechkin research, by the way. 29 games between now and the 27th, just so you know. At least it's 22 away. There you go.
You laughed at me when I said that.
There are more games in February than I even thought. Like I, for some reason, mentally was like, oh, there's probably only like 3 games.
No.
They have 12 games between today, January 13th, and when that break begins on February 9th for them, because they last play the Islanders at home on the 8th. Mm-hmm. Some of the notable opponents, I guess, coming up are Oilers here at home, Avalanche on the road, Maple Leafs on the road. They do have a little bit of that Canada swing. But for the most part, and I guess Hurricanes on the road, or at home, excuse me. For the most part, though, I wouldn't say you're getting like your Dallas Stars. You're not getting your Winnipeg Jets. You're not
That's
getting...
because you're done with like all those Central teams. Isn't that wild? Like you're done with the Jets. You're
which I hate.
Done. I think you're done with the Stars. You're done with Chicago.
Yep.
You don't have any more that like which
I'm looking, yeah.
Which maybe is good because Minnesota tends to do good against these Eastern Conference teams for some reason. So you're missing out on that last couple 4-point swings in March, which was always kind of fun.
At Dallas on March 24th looks like your final. Oh no, and then they come here on.
So you got
April
2 more
6th.
against them.
2 more against Dallas. Yes.
In Colorado, we hadn't seen too much of yet.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and say that I think making a full NHL like season schedule is easy, but that seems weird to be done with certain teams already that you feel like should have a lot of heavy play late in the season, like what Jessi's talking about.
Want that.
With those 4-point swings.
Wow.
Yeah, they want that in the playoffs every year for some reason, but we can't have it in the regular season.
Okay. We're gonna go there because Jess, AJ and I talked about this a couple of days ago as well, and I would like to get your thoughts. But before we get your thoughts about that, I want to get your thoughts about your friends at Swing Lab. Tell me all about them.
love them. Swing Lab Performance Golf Center. Who doesn't want to get out, work on their swing before the golf season officially starts? Swing Lab Performance Golf Center in Lakeville has you covered. They've got club fittings. They got simulators. They even have lessons, you guys. And
swing.
It's the perfect way to fine tune your golf game this off season. So go and check them out down in Lakeville. I certainly did. My golf game has gotten better. I'm looking forward to using their simulators more often as the Wild Leave Town Swing Lab Performance Golf in Lakeville. Let them know what Judd's Hockey Show and Jessi sent you.
Absolutely true. And once you get done with that, check out our friends at Parlor Bar. In fact, if you are going to a Wild game, might I suggest just down West 7th, right near the X, is Parlor Bar. Absolutely outstanding. Open 4 to 10 p.m. Monday and Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. They got a great brunch. Lunch is served daily from 11 to 3. Also, special game day menu available 3 hours before face-off. It is an ideal spot for a delicious, of course, parlor burger, or may I suggest the chicken sandwich, which is great. Again, right down West 7th Street from the X. Make Parlor Bar your stop before a Wild game. All right, so AJ brought this up, Jessi. It's not a new topic, but I'm beginning to think that he is 100% right.
Wow.
Gary Bettman,
More confidence than I've ever gotten from you, but thank you.
Well, I've always sort of agreed with part of this, but I didn't agree with part. So Gary Bettman loves what they've got playoff-wise, right? And it is 2 plays 3 in each division. The first place team in each division then plays a wild card team. Anyway, AJ's point is we're getting the same matchups all the time, which they wanted because the whole goal was to bring division rivalries back. The problem is, and I didn't think about this, when I was a kid, it was great because it was literally like teams hated each other. You would have fights. There'd be, and I'm not saying that there's not animosity built up now. There is, but it's a very different game. It's a very skilled game now. And is there any compelling case that you can make, or do you disagree that they should not just go back to conference seedings, that just have 1 play 8, 2 play 7? Because I think AJ's main point is we're getting the same matchups. Like if Dallas plays the Wild, well, we've seen that before. Your thoughts on going back to just a pure seedings format via each conference?
Yeah, because it'd be fun. You love to see an 8 take out a 1 in a sweep, right? You love to see those little dramatics, and those numbers do change. It will never happen, as you just mentioned. Gary Bettman is absolutely in love with himself for creating the playoff format as it sits. But I've told you guys this before, even when we talked about playing games and if that would ever be something that they consider. I am all for trying new things to attract new audience members. And you're right, if you're getting the same matchups all the time, that's not going to exactly draw anybody new. And you're right, there's no ire between a lot of these teams right now. Even with the home and home series, that was what those were supposed to help designate and implement. It hasn't. It just isn't there. Like proximity should still be a thing. You know, you should still have this heated rival with Chicago, but you don't, because Chicago's kind of
Yep.
But no, I mean, I'd be all for trying it because I do love an 8 upsetting a 1. And like I said, I just am all for trying anything when it comes to the playoffs, especially to draw a new fan base and to inject some life, a little fun into it. And I think that's what, a Cinderella story is built on, is an 8 over a 1.
AJ, your thoughts on your on a topic that drives you crazy?
Yeah, I would like to see the better teams have a series later in the playoffs. Yes, I think seeing an 8 upset a 1 would be fantastic, and it would get, you could have teams root for like who was it? The Blue Jackets beat
Blue Jackets in a sweep.
In the sweep
Tampa
over
Bay.
the Lightning,
Tampa.
and they put out that embarrassing tweet. Like we
embarrassed too.
where we know how you feel, and trust me,
we're gonna fire everyone. Don't worry about it.
with no words, and then here's a paragraph of words that can express our feelings. But yeah, I as much as I enjoy teams, battling it out and you getting that rivalry, what's going to draw a bigger rivalry than a conference final between 2 dead heat rivals? You're already banged up. The biggest prize is on the line going to that Stanley Cup final. I just don't. I'm sick of seeing like the Kings and the Oilers battle it out in the first round year after year after year after year after year. I think it's been like 1 year out of the past 5 that they haven't met in the first round. It's insane. It's crazy. And then also too, you have sometimes when I feel like a certain division might be a little more loaded, and so that 2-3 matchup probably could be a quarterfinal or even a semifinal matchup. But hey, because of the seeding, we have to have it in the first round in 2 teams that should be battling later. Now, hey, Mark Stone is going to get knocked out in game 6 of a really dead heat first round. And now, hey, Vegas is really out of it in the second round, missing their star because they had to go, tooth and nail. And it stinks. I need 1v8, 2v7, and then reseed it in the second round. Similar, like if you got more points and you're a better team, you should have the reward of home ice advantage and playing a worse team in the sense of standings.
I think you're exactly right. And the thing too is like when I say that, because this whole thing was done too, right? To go back to let's have teams that build up a hatred. If you guys remember, and where I think I realized the idea had jumped the shark was the year that Dallas played the Wild and Suter was with the Stars, and he cross-checks Kaprizov like right in the ribs, clearly hurts him. In the old days, Ryan Suter's name, I mean, he would have been, the rest of that series, he would have been demolished. Like
I think he would have died.
Right, but you used to go get him. But the point is, you used to have the flexibility to, okay, if that's what you're going to do, then we're going to go after you or your star. Now, for the betterment of the game, it's not how it works anymore. So it's not like okay, you know what? Let's go see him really go get Suter or something like that. Which again, I'm not advocating that was good. I'm just saying that's what sort of made, like the North Stars Blackhawks was made off of that hatred, pure hatred, Jess. And now it's like I would rather see, quite frankly, an Oilers Wild matchup just to see the greatness of like McDavid, Draisaitl, than I would a recycled, let's play the Blues again for the 15th time.
If Brodeen's back, I'll take Edmonton.
Well, Brodeen's not back. It's all over for everyone anyway. Yeah.
I mean, going back to that, Dale, I mean, wasn't Ryan Reeves on the team at that point in time too?
Yeah, and you can't do that.
Kind of the reason you had him there.
Yeah,
but you could have done something.
Well, you could have done
something.
But I mean, it's not as allowable. My point is, you just don't see
prison rules, baby.
You don't see the prison rules.
Playoffs.
Yeah, which is why at the end of that Blues game when Bogosian was killing people and he's like, I like prison rules. It's like,
yeah.
So who allows that now? And by the way, if we're going to allow that, great, but let's allow it for everybody.
In the playoffs, you pocket that whistle, man. You just.
But do you feel like I feel like the playoffs are so much cleaner now. Like you still have, I mean, you still have some stuff. I'm not saying you don't have some stuff, but the days of 3 guys are fighting simultaneously on the ice are long gone.
Well, because the days of having guys who can only fight are long gone. Like now you have to actually be able to play hockey, right? Like it's not a
right.
I was actually just watching this the other day, the Anaheim, Minnesota series when they put Bugard out there for no reason but to put Bugard out there and fight, I think Getzlaf or something like that. Like it was wild. Like, and then he didn't end up putting Getzlaf off. He put out their fighter or whatever.
Fedorik?
I don't remember.
Todd Fedorik, who, but by
Bugard
the way,
just does this hot lap and just keeps circling and waiting. You're
Bugard
like, all right.
collapsed Fedorik's face at one point.
Yeah.
He broke his face.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what I just watched, actually? This is funny that we're talking about this. Like an hour ago when I was eating lunch. You know who Secret Base is? You ever see their stuff on YouTube? I highly recommend it. But they have this nice little, it's 10 minutes, talking about the beef between the Avalanche and Red Wings back in like the 95, 96. Claude Lemieux, Chris Draper.
Yes.
It details every
30 for
meeting
30.
from there on out. It's a nice little quick watch. It's like 10 minutes. I'll send it to both of you. It's a highly recommend.
Draper's face collapsed.
Ugh.
Oh, it was great.
What a series. What a rivalry.
Oh, but I mean, that's what I'm talking about. That's where you had that pure hatred. And it's like, you are in our way to win a cup. We will kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Claude Lemieux, I mean, my God.
The
and look,
names.
those guys were goons. But the fact is, it's skill now, which is great, but I'd rather see the skill. Hey, before we go, I would be remiss if I did not bring up Marc-Andre Fleury's performance Saturday against the Sharks, and the fact that the Vegas crowd now last night was chanting his name, despite the fact he didn't play. One, that was super cool, but 2, that performance on Saturday was legitimate, awesome. I mean, I don't know if you had asked me, do I think he had that in him still? I don't know. I would have instantly said yes. But I mean, the Sharks offensively are really good, and Celebrini is a stud. And by the way, he is much better at this point than Bedard is. There's no question about it.
Yes.
No, because he's stronger. But
Hockey.
but Flower on Saturday, you guys, what a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, I love him. He's the best person in the world. Like, why wouldn't he? Only good things for him. All the flowers, all the time.
I know, but
that
I mean,
St.
he's 40
Louis
years old.
game. I mean, look at yeah. But that's the thing. That's what we talk about with him all the time. I dap him up. He goes, "Not bad for a 40-year-old." I'm like, I know. Like, we're windmill saving. We're doing everything. Like, it's incredible to watch him play, and it gives you kind of that comfort when he does come out and do, whether it's in relief or whether it's in a game like you said against San Jose, because you need both goalies at some point. You know, like it's eventually going to come in handy to have a good goaltending tandem. And John Hines, unlike our fair friend Dean Evson, I think is going to be able to figure out that tandem a little bit better should he need to.
Not bad for a 40-year-old. could it be not bad for a 41-year-old? Like, are we sure?
He was asked
this
about
is
that.
the last year?
He
Are
said, "I'm
are we
absolutely
positive,
done."
Flower?
He said, "I'm absolutely done."
He did?
I'd be asking him every day. Every day. Hey, man, you looked really good against San Jose. Like, that's the future of this league, and you're still very much in the present. So what do you say? Like, you want to just one more run it back? We can veteran discount. Come on back. You can just drive the
Then
bus.
wouldn't you
We'll
feel
get
kind of silly with all of the fanfare? For
Yeah,
everything?
he
Like,
said that.
Yeah,
That's what
he'd
he
be
said.
like, okay, I
Yeah,
guess we're
He's
going
like,
to
"I
do this all over
can't
again.
keep going down this path every year where it's like, I'm done. And plus his poor wife and kids, right?
Yeah.
Daddy's going to be home. Daddy's not going to be home. Daddy's going to be home. Daddy's not going to be home.
Take them with. Bring them on the road. I don't
They
care.
do sometimes.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
No, I understand that, though, from his perspective, because how many times, like in football, do you see the quarterback go for one more year and they're just terrible and it's just picks after picks after picks? I don't want Marc-Andre Fleury to have
exactly.
like start after start where he's letting up 4 or 5 goals a game
Yeah.
and it's just sad and it's like this season needs to be over. I get it, but just as a hockey fan, I don't. It's gonna be so weird to see him actually be done. There's been those players where you're like that. I don't believe that you are actually getting older. It's just I don't know. I've been
But that's
watching him.
because, I mean, I know you're a little younger than me, but that's because, yeah, he's been around. I've watched his entire career, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's very few players where I've been able to, like, start to fit him. And Ovechkin, too. Ovechkin, the whole thing. Crosby, the whole thing. We're the same age, man. I can't be the oldest person in the locker room.
You're about to be.
I know.
You're about to be. Those guys are kids.
Wait
as
till
far
I'm
as
older than
concerned.
a coach. That'll happen one day.
I remember watching Gretzky play at 19.
Carl.
What's that?
What? I said David Carl. He's 35.
He's 35, I know, but luckily I don't cover him right now. So
And by the way, he said he's not gonna coach the World Junior team next year. So who does? Does Motzko come back? Can he come back? I'm sure he can.
I wouldn't do Moscow. He can't play in big time. Big time Bob can't pull it off. You know?
Wow!
Whoa!
Oh,
They won
wow.
it with
I mean,
him. They won it with him.
Yeah,
when he was St.
yeah,
Cloud's
they won
coach.
gold.
It's not gonna happen.
They
Jack
won a
Cachow
gold
was
with
on that
Bob.
team.
Bob said it's right in Bob's backyard. What do you mean it's not going to happen?
No, I say no.
Wow.
Sorry. I love the Gophers, and I forgive him for coaching St. Cloud first, but no.
I mean, he has had some problems in big college hockey games.
Yep.
But he did
he
win
has.
the World Juniors. I think they were in Montreal.
Were they? I thought they were in Sweden.
What, bowl this year?
Oh, they might have been. He coached them twice, so
Yeah,
Matt Pull.
I mean,
Pick it up, oldie.
but think about it like this: Air Force, AIC, Bowling Green. Actually, no, not AIC, but that was after his year. But like, none of those teams are in the World Juniors. There's no problem. Quinnipiac is not in the World Juniors. You don't have to worry about it. Just
I did
little
not mean
Latvia.
for this to become a bash Bob Motzko segment. I really
No,
like
I
Bob,
love Bob.
okay?
I love Bob.
All right, I think we've done all the damage that we could possibly do. Judd's Hockey Show. I'm sure we'll be back with another episode probably after the Wild plays the Oilers on Wednesday. See you then.